Hi everybody and welcome to Starting from Scratch episode 6. Yeah, still unbelievably difficult. I'm noticing tiny improvements. I'm only noticing them as in I can start doing some things with my left hand with the bow and the right hand with the strings. It still doesn't sound very good, so I'm not noticing much improvement in sound, but I'm starting to be a little bit more hopeful that I actually might manage to teach myself to play the violin. Yes, my second lesson of teaching myself from scratch is out. I'll have the link in the description. I go into putting some things into a rhythmical frame, pizzicato, bow hand pizzicato and string hand pizzicato. That's important so that our muscles learn when to move, not just how to move. And I go into putting the bow on the string after a couple of bow exercises, putting the bow on the string and making a sound with a relaxed bow hand, concentrating on the quality of sounds. Very important. Always practice sounds, not movements, because sounds is what we want. And our body is able to follow a sound and to create the movement necessary for the sound. But our goal, what we should have in mind, is always sound and not movements. That's particularly difficult as a beginner because we have to practice the movements so much, so we often tend to forget about actually practicing sounds. I recently made a video on my channel called Back to Basics Part 1, where I talk about the mechanics of the bow arm in the upper and the lower half. And that's what I want to try out from the point of view of a beginner today. So this is going to be very interesting because this exercise I've taught people countless times. Countless people I've been working at this exercise with. And let's see how I do with myself. You need to start on the E string, just the upper half. Find the violin position. Put my bow in the middle, just let my upper arm hang. And I'm just going to go to the tip and back. Okay, string crossing A string. I'll do the string crossing a couple of times so that my upper arm learns where the next string is. Okay, string crossing. Yeah, my bow's sliding around. I need to add more weight on the D string. Yeah, that was better. G string. String crossing. Back to the D string. I'll do that again, that was not good. A string. E string. Yeah, who would have thought this exercise is so difficult? It is difficult. My upper arm needs to learn where the strings are, and particularly on the lowest strings, I'm finding it difficult getting all the way to the tip. I'm trying very hard to practice sounds, not movements, so that the sound is basically the goal. It's what everything is about, and the movements are there to create the sound and not just to do the correct movement, not thinking of the sound. Okay, now the lower half. Lower half is difficult, I know that. Okay, E string. this is very difficult because the bow is heavy. I have to carry it. My fourth finger has to do that. And I have to curl my fingers and bend my thumb as I approach the frog. And I can't do that very well yet, which is why I'm using my wrist so much. It's getting a little bit better since I started working at the finger bowing. Very, very slightly better. I only notice it a little bit. I don't even think it's visible yet, but there is something happening. Things are developing. Let's do this again. Okay, most important, besides the fact that I continuously use my bow hold, when I do this in the lower half, I really have to concentrate on feeling my fourth finger on the bow stick, because that's the one which is balancing out the bow, which is so important in the lower half because the bow is so heavy. Let's see if I can do this curling my fingers and bending my thumb, even if it's just a little bit. Okay, A string. I have to repair my bow hold. It's slipping off, no good. Whoa, this is such a patience tester. Okay, let's do this again. I don't even mind it being that wobbly and bouncy. I'm quite glad if I can actually get to the frog. D string. I actually need a higher bow speed. Let's see if that helps. Yeah, still very bouncy, very wobbly. G string. Tilting the bow at the frog towards the fingerboard, that helps. Okay, so I found out as I approach the frog to tilt the bow towards the fingerboard a little bit and back again. That helps. There's less tension on the hairs, makes the bow change a bit better. Yes, the finger action of my bow hand really needs to be practiced. That's why I can't play at the frog. That's why the lower half is so difficult. So I'm going to go from two sides. I'm going to continue practicing the finger bowing. Practice that. I want to practice that wandering to the frog. This is miles ahead, but that's where I want to go. And then practice this exercise with upper half and lower half for my arm to get used to the mechanics. Okay, I'm going to be working at my string hand now. Bow hand needs a break, and it's no use trying to practice these sort of exercises with the bow because it would just sound terrible, and it's difficult enough as it is. I'm going to start today with my third finger, and I'm going to control that with the open string below. Okay, I'll do that on all strings. Important, what I notice, and I keep on having to remind myself, is when I practice the string hand, pizzicato, that I really try hard to make a good sound with the pizzicato, because we're still practicing sounds, not movements, and the better the sound that I can create here, the better I can hear, and therefore also correct intonation. And not only that, one has to just get used to always trying to make a good sound. And even if in the end, of course, I want to play with the bow. Right now, I can't do these exercises with the bow. I have to do them plucking the strings, but I have to get used to making a good sound right from the start. My left hand is now in charge of sound quality, which it never was before, or only to a very limited degree. So it has to practice making a good sound. Now I'm going to combine some exercises. I'm going to start with the third finger. Now fourth finger as well. Left hand pizzicato, fourth finger plucking the third finger. Yeah, very soft. At this stage, one has to be satisfied if one gets any note at all, because it's difficult and my fourth finger can't do this. Better. Out of tune. Losing the intonation. Okay, I'll do this a string lower. I have to be very critical with the intonation because my string hand has to practice correcting. So intonation is everything here right now. Well, nearly. It plucked the string. Ah, good enough, good enough. One has to be satisfied with so little these days. Next string. Ah, nearly. Good enough. Okay, good enough for now. Why am I practicing this? I'm practicing intonation. I'm practicing hearing and correcting. That's the most important thing that I'm practicing. I am practicing plucking with the fourth finger, not an open string, but my third finger, which is much more difficult than plucking an open string. That strengthens my fourth finger. And most of all, what this does is it makes my third and fourth finger independent from each other. It's very difficult to get third and fourth finger independent. They don't like being independent, nor do they like being far away from each other. So widening the hand here is very important and takes quite a bit of time. So I'm working at the independence of third and fourth finger and widening the hand between third and fourth finger. And this is particularly important for adult beginners because we are not nearly as flexible as a 5, 6, 7-year-old kid that starts the violin. With children, it usually goes quite fast. As an adult, it takes a lot of practicing getting all this independence. And I'm starting with an advantage because my right hand learned bow technique where there's a certain independence of the fingers as well. It's totally different, of course. But for somebody who's literally doing this for the first time, one would need a lot of patience for this exercise. It's not exactly fun. It's a little bit painful. One can't do it very long. I can tell if I do this much longer, then my fourth finger will get blisters. It's getting hot, so one has to be careful with that. And also be careful that one doesn't tense up somewhere else, but it's a very valuable, very helpful exercise if you have the patience to do it calmly. Patience is still a problem with me. I think I'm getting a bit more patient, but not nearly as relaxed and patient as I would like to be. Okay, I hope you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to my channel if you want to see where this is going. And yeah, let's get with the fiddle and learn this instrument. Happy practicing.